Hare Krishna. Thank you for joining. Let's just get this sorted. Okay. So thank you so much for joining. Shivagatam Sangha and Antu Japa. We'll make a start. And we have been all these weeks talking about Maharaj Citraketu, so many lessons to be learned. And now, last time he had said something about Lord Shiva that Mother Pārvatī was not happy with, and she cursed him basically, and we'll just take it from there. Thank you. So Sri Shukdev Goswami continued, my dear King Parikshit, when Citraketu was cursed by Pārvatī, he descended from his airplane, bowed before her with great humility and pleased her completely. So he didn't take it badly that, oh, she has cursed me, now I have to do something back and get my revenge. He accepted it nicely that this is the will of providence. This is what I'm supposed to get. That's fine. Citraketu said, my dear mother, with my own hands folded together, I accept the curse upon me. I don't mind the curse, for happiness and distress are given by the demigods and as a result of one's past deeds. So this is why he's such an exalted person, because he doesn't think like an average man. You think it has to be different. It has to be unique, has to be in line with the Krishna consciousness that everything happens for a reason, and the reason usually happens for your good. So since Citraketu was a devotee of the Lord, he was not all disturbed by the curse of Mother Pārvatī. So this is how we need to think, that things happen in our lives. It's fine. It will be okay. He knew very well that one suffers or enjoys the results of one's past deeds as ordained by Deva Netra, superior authority, or the agents of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knew that he had not committed any offense at the lotus feet of Lord Shiva or the goddess Pārvatī, yet he had been punished because he was just having this conversation with the Lord Shiva. He did not deliberately go to insult him like Daksh did. It's a different scenario here. And this meant that the punishment had been ordained. So it was a little bit harsh. His punishment was a little bit harsh for what he had said. Thus the king did not mind it. A devotee is naturally so humble and weak that he accepts any condition of life as a blessing from the Lord. Tatte nikumpam shushmika samanaha. A devotee always accepts punishment from anyone as the mercy of the Lord. Because he knows, I'm not the controller, the Lord is the controller. They are not controller, I'm not controller. Everything is the control of the Lord. If one lives in this conception of life, he sees whatever reverses occurred to be due to his past misdeeds. And therefore, he never accuses anyone. On the contrary, he becomes increasingly attached to the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of his being purified by his suffering. Suffering, therefore, is also a process of purification. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Maharaj Citraketu's being cursed by Pārvatī should be considered the mercy of the Lord. The Lord wanted Citraketu to return to Godhead as soon as possible, and therefore he terminated all the reactions of his past deeds, acting through the heart of Pārvatī. The Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart, cursed Citraketu in order to end all his material reactions. Thus, Citraketu became Vitrasur in his next life and returned home back to Godhead. So sometimes what seems like a reversal is actually something that God does for you to change your life. Although at the time, oh, I was doing so nicely, why has this change come? It's going to affect my bhakti, but not necessarily. That change came because the way you were heading was probably a dead end, right? Or that it was not going to improve your bhakti. Sometimes Krishna has to take some great action to make changes in your life that will lead you to a quicker path or a better path to your destination that we had not foreseen or we were not strong enough to take. So Krishna had to do it for us. So let's pray. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Mukham Kroti Vachalam. Angum Lamyate Gurim Yat Kirpatam Mandeshi Gurundi Taranam. Brahmananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tassat. Narayam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Sasvidhyasam Tato Jayam Udiriyet. Nashta Prishabdreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevya. Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Nestiki. Hare Krishna. So, deluded by ignorance, the living entity wanders in the forest of this material world, enjoying the happiness and distress resulting from his past deeds, everywhere and at all times. So, therefore, my dear mother, neither you nor I am to be blamed for this incident, as confirmed Bhagavad-Gita, Prakarte Kriyamanani, Guna Karmani Sarvasha, Ahankara Vibhudatma Kartaham iti maniyate. The bewildered soul, under the influence of the three modes of nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are in actuality carried out by nature. Actually, conditioned soul is completely under the control of material nature. So, which means that we are controlled by three gunas. So, at one point, some guna will take over us. Could be ignorance, could be passion. So, we are sort of forced to say something or do something that is maybe not conducive to at least our social life or our interaction with other people. They will take it the wrong way. But the feeling was so strong that it had to be done. So why was the feeling strong? Because some mode or passion or maybe ignorance takes over your thoughts or your actions that you are forced into it. So we're not the controllers. The modes are controlling us, how we behave. Wandering here and there, always and everywhere, he is subjected to the results of his past deeds. This is carried out by the laws of nature. But one foolishly thinks himself the doer, which in fact he is not. To get free from the karma chakra, the wheel of results of one's karma, one should take to bhakti marg, devotional service or Krishna consciousness. That is the only remedy. Sarva dharman pratajya mam ekam sharanam braja. In this material world, neither the living entity himself nor others, which may be your friends or your enemies, are the cause of material happiness and distress. But because of gross ignorance, the living entity thinks that he and others are the cause. So everything is in control of material nature or in the control of Krishna. People, whether they're friends or enemies, are just instruments on that path. So this material world resembles the waves of constantly flowing river. Therefore, what is a curse and what is a favor? What are the heavenly planets and what are the hellish planets? What is actually happiness and what is actually distress? Because the waves flow constantly, none of them has an eternal effect. So Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in this regard that being put into this material world is like being thrown into a mine of salt. If one falls into a mine of salt, he tastes only salt wherever he goes. Similarly, this material world is full of miseries. The so-called temporary happiness of the world is also misery. But in ignorance, we cannot understand this. That is the actual position. One comes to his senses when he becomes Krishna conscious. He is no longer concerned with the various conditions of this material world. He is not concerned with happiness or distress, curses or favors, or heavenly or hellish planets. He sees no distinction between them because he sees everything as the will of the Lord, and he accepts everything that Lord is doing. That must be right. Especially when you're a devotee, especially So because then Krishna takes over your karma, he takes over your life, and he will, induce something which will bring you closer to him. He will use your karma to bring you closer to him. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is one, unaffected by the conditions of the material world. He creates all the conditioned souls by his own personal potency. Because of being contaminated by the material energy, the living entity is put into ignorance and thus into different conditions of bondage. Sometimes by knowledge, the living entity is given liberation in Sattva-gun and Rajogun. He is subjected to happiness and distress. So the question may be raised, why the living entities are situated in different conditions and who has arranged this? Well, we already discussed that, but anyway, the answer is that it has been done by the Supreme Personality Godhead without anyone's help. The Lord has his own energies, and one of them, namely the external energy, creates the material world and the varieties of happiness and distress for the conditioned souls under the supervision of the Lord. The material world consists of three modes of nature, Sattva Guna, Rajagun, and Tamagun. By Sattva Gun, the Lord maintains the material world. By Rajagun, he creates it, and by Tamagun, he annihilates it. After the varieties of living entities are created, they are subject to happiness and distress according to their association. When they are in Sattva Gun, the mode of goodness, they feel happiness. When in Rajagun, they are distressed. When in Tamagun, they have no sense of what to do, what is right and wrong. They're in their own world. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is equally disposed toward all living entities. Therefore, no one is very dear to him, and no one is a great enemy for him. No one is his friend, and no one is his relative. So we think, well, if that's the case, then how come some people are, getting, which seems like more favors than we are? If God is equal to all of us, then why are not we unequal? Why aren't we equally rich, equally beautiful, equally strong? Right? Why is that? Well, that's just based on our karma, right? So he is equal according to, what our situation. So he's not giving anybody more than they deserve or less than they deserve. So he's equal. Being unattached to the material world, he has no affection for so-called happiness or hatred or so-called distress. The two terms happiness and distress are relative. Since the Lord is always happy, for him there is no question of distress. So although the Supreme Lord is unattached to our happiness and distress according to karma, and although no one is his enemy or his favorite, he creates pious and impious activities through the agency of his material potency. Thus, for the continuation of the materialistic way of life, he creates happiness and distress, good fortune, bad, bondage and liberation, birth and death. Just going to read this again. Although the Supreme Lord is unattached to our happiness and distress according to karma, and although no one is his enemy or favorite, he creates pious and impious activities through the agency of his material potency. Thus, for the continuation of the materialistic way of life, he creates happiness and distress, good fortune and bad, bondage and liberation, birth and death. So although the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the ultimate doer of everything, in his original transcendental existence, he is not responsible for the happiness and distress or bondage and liberation of the conditioned souls. These are due to the results of the fruitive activities of the living entities within this material world. By the order of a judge, one person is released from jail and another is imprisoned. So he has made these things so we can learn, or we can see what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and we can see that things are not necessarily in our control. We don't ask for trouble. Sometimes trouble comes to us like that, yeah. But the judge is not responsible for the distress and happiness of these different people is due to their own activities. Although the government is ultimately the supreme authority, the justice is administered by the departments of the government, and the government is not responsible for the individual judgments. Therefore, the government is equal to all the citizens. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is neutral to everyone. From his position is neutral. What is give and take is depends on us, our situation. But for the maintenance of law and order, his supreme government has various departments which control the activities of the living entities. Another example given in this regard is that lilies open or close because of the sunshine. And thus the bumblebees enjoy or suffer, but the sunshine and the sun globe are not responsible for the happiness and distress of the bumblebees. Oh, mother, you are now unnecessarily angry. But since all my happiness and distress are destined by my past activities, I don't plead to be excused or relieved from your curse. Although what I have said is not wrong, please let whatever you think is wrong be pardoned. So if you think I'm wrong, then please pardon me. Although I don't think I meant to do anything or meant anything in a wrong way. Yeah, we find that a lot happens in our lives as well, that we say one thing. It's how is, this coding and decoding. We say one thing and it's misunderstood. Sometimes it has to be explained again. But Mother Pārvatī did not give him the opportunity to explain himself. She just straight to the curse, that's it. Didn't consider who he is, how exalted he is, what he has done. Now, or how close he is to Krishna, what a big devotee is. Now, just curse him. Something wrong said, curse. Being fully aware of how the results of one's karma accrue by the laws of nature, Citraketu didn't want to be released from Pārvati's curse. Nonetheless, he wanted to satisfy her because although his verdict was, he wanted to satisfy her, and did not want to release from Pārvati's curse. Nonetheless, he wanted to satisfy her because although his verdict was natural, she was displeased with him. As a matter of course, Maharaj Citraketu begged pardon from Pārvatī. So, just etiquette, courtesy to say, yeah, I'm sorry that I hurt you, you misunderstood me, but I beg your pardon. Please forgive me. Sri Shukadev Goswami continued, O King Parikshit, subduer of the enemy, after Citraketu satisfied Lord Shiva and his wife Pārvatī, he boarded his airplane, left as they looked on. When Lord Shiva and Pārvatī saw that Citraketu, although informed of the curse, was unafraid, they smiled, being fully astonished by his reaction. Thereafter, in the presence of the great sage Narad, the demons, the inhabitants of Siddhalok, and his personal associates, Lord Shiva, who is most powerful, spoke to his wife Pārvatī while they all listened. So now that Maharaj Citraketu has gone, so Lord Shiva is going to have a word with his beloved and explain to her what just happened. Lord Shiva said, my dear beautiful Pārvatī, so bring her in a good mood. Have you seen the greatness of the Vaishnavas? Being servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Hari, they are great souls and are not interested in any kind of material happiness. Lord Shiva, the husband of Pārvatī, told his wife, my dear Pārvatī, you are very beautiful in your godly features. Certainly you are glorious, but I don't think that you can compete with the beauty and glory of devotees who have become servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, Lord Shiva smiled when he joked with his wife in that way. So others cannot speak like that. The Supreme Lord Shiva continued, is always exalted in his activities. And here is another example of his wonderful influence upon King Citraketu, his devotee. Just see, although you cursed the king, he was not at all afraid or sorry. Rather, he offered respect to you, called you mother, and accepted your curse. So this is a great devotee, sign of a great devotee. Thinking himself faulty, he didn't say anything in retaliation. This is the excellence of a devotee. By mildly tolerating your curse, he has certainly excelled the glory of your beauty and your excellence simply by becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. So Lord Shiva is impressed with the response of Maharaj Citraketu. So I can impartially judge that this devotee Citraketu has defeated you and your excellence simply by becoming a pure devotee of the Lord. As stated by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Tarara Pishunechana, just like a tree, a devotee can tolerate all kinds of curses and reverses in life. This is the excellence of a devotee. That is a sign of a devotee. Most people go to war over little things. Indirectly, Lord Shiva forbade Pārvatī to commit the mistake of cursing a devotee like Citraketu. He indicated that although she was powerful, the king, without showing any power, had excelled her power by his tolerance. Sometimes your actions can speak louder than words, right? So his actions were better than her words of cursing him. Devotees solely engaged in devotional service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, liberation, hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of the Lord. Pārvatī might naturally have inquired how devotees become so exalted. Therefore, this verse explains that they are Narayan Para, simply dependent on Narayan. They don't mind reverses in life because so in the service of Narayan, they have learned to tolerate whatever hardships there may be. They don't care whether they are in heaven or in hell. They simply engage in the service of the Lord. This is their excellence. Anukulayena Krishna Anushilanam. They are liberally engaged in the service of the Lord and therefore they are excellent. By using the word Brityanam, Lord Shiva pointed out that although Citraketu provided one example of tolerance and excellence, all the devotees who have taken shelter of the Lord as eternal servants are glorious. They have no eagerness to be happy by being placed in the heavenly planets, liberated or becoming one with the Brahman, the supreme effulgence. These benefits do not appeal to their minds. They're simply interested in giving direct service to the Lord. So this is Maharaj Citraketu and how amazing he is. He was a king in his own right before, and when he got the knowledge that, what is actually, he had the knowledge, but sometimes you need a reminder. He got the reminder when he by his dead son, when he came back to life, that, these are temporary lives, one after another. Who is mother? Who is father? We're changing relationships all the time. Sometimes are you mother and father, then you are my mother and father, and then we have different mothers and fathers. This is going on. This is little chapters in a very big book of life. So there is no permanence here. So he decided to meditate, and then he was transferred to planet of Vidyadhar, and he was given the kingdom there, the king of the Vidyadhars. But he didn't want that. He said, what am I doing here? I was supposed to go back to Vaikuntha. Why have I ended up here? I don't want all these. I don't want Nadanam, Najanam, Nam Sundarim. Everything was there. He didn't want it. And now somehow he's got cursed, but which is obviously going to be good for him in the long run. He says, fine, Krishna can give me all opulence and God giveth and God taketh away. It's fine. If he wants to take it all away now, obviously he thinks there's some better way for me. Or it's time now for change, and I'll accept it, and I'm sure it will be in my favor. So thank you all so much. Thank you for joining. Hina Mataji, Mother Shyam Sundar Prabhu, Parmi Mataji, Sureshya Mataji, and Radharani. Thank you, and love to hear from you. We'll start with Sureshya Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everybody. And we learned so many things from Citraketu, by his activities, how tolerant he was. And our happiness and distress are given by demigods, not by other people. It's by demigod, and it's due to our karma, what we done before in our last life and what we are doing now. Sometimes we get result in this life, sometimes we get the result of past life, our karma. And we are responsible for our happiness and distress due to the results of the fruity activities within this material world. So our happiness and distress is because of our results of our fruity activities, what we do. If we do something good, we get happy. If we do something bad, we get sad. And people like if material nature, that people like sense gratification. That's why they earn the money they just to spend and good time, good life. And Citraketu was a great Vaishnava. By his character, we can judge that he was a very great Vaishnava, unloyed devotee of the Lord. Naturally, if a devotee of the Lord, you have got all good characters. And he automatically manifests good qualities, like he was very tolerant, he was very respectful to Mother Pārvatī. Even she kissed him, still he was very, very respectful to her. And he is equal to everybody, and they're not envious of anybody. I mean, he accepted the Citraketu accepted the Mother Parvati's curse in a very humble way. He didn't get angry. Sometimes people curse, you get angry, but when you are devotee, you take it a very humble way. Citraketu could have cursed Mother Parvati back, but he took it as a mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and mercy of the Vaishnavas. One cannot change the course of one's happiness and distress by plan. You can't plan your happiness and distress. Everyone has to accept them as they come under the subtle arrangement of time. So the time is the factor of everything. Your happiness comes because of time, your distress comes of the time. And who is time? Krishna is, he says, I am the time. So there's no difference between time and Krishna. Devotees of the Lord never fear any condition of life. Whatever condition they're in, they should never fear. That is talking about pure devotees. For them, heavenly planets, liberation, the hellish planets are same as long as they never forget God. They never forget Krishna. And they never forget Krishna's name. As long as they don't mind where they are heaven or hell or wherever. Yeah, they accept all kind of case, all kind of distress. As long as they take Krishna, they never forget Krishna, never forget Krishna's name. So in our life, if we are have distress or we are unhappy, sad, we should always take Lord's name. Even some people take Lord's name when they are in distress, but when they're happy, they forget. But we should take in happiness and in distress anywhere. Every day we should take Lord's names because we are part and parcel of Krishna, and He is our God. We are the limbs of Krishna, so we should save Krishna. And that's the way we will be happy. If we'll save Krishna, then we'll be happy. If we save material nature, we all have said distress and happiness, dual, every time duality. So that's very nice lesson we having from Citraketu. We are learning a lot of things from Bhagavatam. I mean, from the devotees, we are learning a lot of things, the characters, and we should try to follow. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mother. Yeah, it's amazing lessons for us, and we try and follow that path, and it's beautiful. Thank you. Hina Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the class. member of the sisters, the road to everybody as well. I think as Mataji already covered off, and really took this point here about how
Mother,
Maharaj was
can't hear you.
getting.
Sorry,
Oh,
Hare
can you hear
Krishna.
me?
Can't hear
Better?
you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, it's better.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me now? Oh, sorry, Prabhuji. Sorry. So I think Mataji did cover some really very nice points already. So for me, I just like the way he set an example of how he accepted the curse, and he kind of set the benchmark at how the devotees should conduct themselves, and by accepting the curse, and he also was accepting whatever happiness and distress that come along with that curse as well. I think, as you nicely explained, everything is in accordance with our past deeds, and anything that we receive, is obviously everything that we receive is sanctioned by the Lord, good and bad. And Maharaj Citraketu, he demonstrated how a devotee should be unaffected by the dualities of this world, whatever good and bad we receive. Devotees are beyond karma because they're free from the reactions of their actions if performed as an act of service to the Lord. And then I really liked how Lord Shiva, how he sings the glories of Citraketu after he leaves as well, and the way that he tolerated Mother Parvati's curse. I was very, very grateful. It was very gracious with her, very respectful towards her. And Lord Shiva tells her that his behavior was actually more superior because he is a pure devotee of the Lord. So compared to the way she was with him. And for me, in terms of Maharaj Citraketu's behavior, his characteristics, for me, it's almost like how he was so tolerant, he had no fear, and he was fully dependent on the Lord. So those were my key points. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mother. You're absolutely right. Curses, they do come loaded with with distress mostly, and maybe some happiness. And Maharaj accepted whatever. Nobody knows what's going to come with that curse, but he accepted it as it is, and he accepted whatever that curse was going to bring upon him. So thank you so much. Praveen Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhanavad Pranam. Citraketu, he's, his activities are exemplary. So in Bhagavad-Gita, Lord says, whatever action a great man performs, common men follow. So by his example, he's clearly shown, how we have to be tolerant and how we have to pay respects and accept everything as the will of the Lord. And being devotees, so we have to understand Krishna is the controller and the doer of everything. So we are just like puppets in his hand. So we should not get distressed. And whatever comes in our life is for our betterment. Because we don't see it at that time. But when we have faith in Krishna, we can see, it is only going to have better results for us. We just have to be tolerant and not to get upset about anything. So I think it's a very, very good lesson for life, how to be free from distress, really. If we understand this and accept everything as Krishna's will, then I think all the distress in our life will be gone, because otherwise we're thinking why this has happened, why that has happened, and we get upset. So we just have to have faith in Krishna. And it also showed how he was respectful, because we get, why somebody said this to me, why did they not respect me? So we should not, accept anything. So we just have to, like Radhanath Maharaj always in his lectures say, always remember Krishna, never forget Krishna. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Yes, now, so Citraketu was, very exalted, and he was able to bear this curse. But that's his capacity, right? We know we don't necessarily have that capacity of I mean, we can learn from him for sure, but we don't necessarily have his capacity, that kind of tolerance. And so we worked, I mean, it's like Shiva, he drank poison. Do we have that capacity to follow in his footsteps? No. So, we work according to our capacity, but the principle should be there that we don't just react. That's the idea. No, so I mean, Maharaj Citraketu, he accepted the curse, but that does not mean that he would give Mother Pārvatī to curse him again, the opportunity to curse him again. The next time he'll be a lot more careful that, I don't get cursed by her. So it's like that. So you tolerate, but that doesn't mean you don't do anything about it. You tolerate internally, you tolerate it, but externally you have to take measures for the future that kind of incidents does not take place again. You can't keep tolerating, okay, somebody slaps you and turn the other cheek, but that doesn't mean they keep slapping you and slapping you because you're tolerating. Like it's not like that. You make sure that that situation does not occur again, but you accept it because it's for your good as well. You don't want to carry that heavy burden with you in your heart, because Krishna will not sit in the heart where you're carrying burdens and hatred or anything like that. So you keep your heart pure by accepting it as Krishna's will, but at the same time, externally, you take some action that so this kind of instance does not take place again. I don't know. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, but like when these things happen in material life, like somebody upsets you, at that time, it does sometimes feel it's a big thing. But like even after like a few hours or like few days, that you think, oh, it is, nothing really. It is petty. So we just have to rise above all this and just.
Yes.
But it is hard. I wouldn't say it is easy. Yes, I do get affected myself. Rather, and although we realize that it's other person's perception or it's their mode, whether they're in mode of ignorance or passion, So, but we just have to, well, I need to just remember Citraketu and just, keep going ahead.
You're absolutely right. Yes, we accept it internally. Yes, and we get peace from that. And you are, this is what a devotee is supposed to do. But at the same time, you don't keep getting into the situation. You learn from that.
I totally I agree with your point. We don't accept it because although it is petty, so like I had to say that as well. This is really petty, and we are not children. And like we are trying to be devotees. So this behavior is not right. So I had to point out at one point. This is not acceptable. Really, the other person, they need to understand. But it doesn't really matter to me. But at the same time, you don't want the other person to make that mistake either.
Yes.
Because we need to learn. Yeah.
That's
Hare Krishna.
Right. It's like Shiva is explaining to Pārvatī, right? So Maharaj Citraketu has gone, but Shiva is now explaining to Pārvatī that, what you've done, I think we'll maybe get more into that next week. What you've done is not right. It's not acceptable behavior. He's telling his wife, and she is the goddess, goddess Durga. And he's telling her that your actions were wrong. So, we tolerate it. That doesn't make the other person right. Somebody still has to explain to them that this is not good behavior. You should be, should learn how to discriminate between people, who you are talking to, who you're talking about. You have to be careful. So Shiva, Lord Shiva, because only he can tell her. He's in that situation, in that relationship he has with her. So he can explain to her that what you just done was not right. Although it was going to happen. Like I said, karma and, providence, arrangement providence, for because he's ready, he's going to go back. He can't be, with the other pati, forever. So yeah, he's going to go back. So that was, providence will, but still we will have to learn from our mistakes, whichever side we are on. Thank you, Mataji. Radharan, one second.
Hare Krishna. Like it was said in the class that this is a mine of salt. where we are thrown this world. And it's very difficult. We all understand that hearing and then hearing that what we are having to face now is most of the past lives. And at the same time, what we are doing now, we are doing for the future. So sometimes when you are in distress, your mind gets totally numb that, Krishna, what's this happening? Is there any way out for us? Are you going to give us some causeless mercy at some point? And how Citraketu dealt with the whole situation is beyond our scope, at least my scope. I think that none of us is that exalted that we'll be able to take it up to that level, how Citraketu Maharaj did. But it's a very tall order to follow. But at the same time, we have to learn. Krishna is giving us some kind of lesson or some kind of punishment, whatever we want to look at it at that moment, is for a reason. We have to set boundaries. I think that's the right word, which is used in the modern language at the lingo at the moment, that we have to set boundaries in every relationship. Otherwise, what will happen is that is going to happen again and again, and it is not possible for us to, carry on functioning with that mindset. So we have to try to learn from what has come and make sure that we don't, well, if we are supposed to fall into some kind of a problem again, that is not going to be possible due to our endeavors. But we try our best. We pray to Krishna that, Krishna, please help me learn the right lesson, whatever lesson is there in this situation for me, so that at least if something like that happens again, first of all, pray that, Krishna, don't let this happen again. Make me so able that I'm able to behave properly, and I'm able to judge the situation coming my way, and I'm able to back out. But if something like that happens, then pray to Krishna that, Krishna, please give me courage how to understand whatever I haven't learned in the last time. Because, this is what life is. The trials and the tribulations comes again and again in different forms and different circumstances. So this is what life is. Like it was said that happiness is just nothing, is a flicker, and the tests and the, when we hear from people, take life, don't take life very seriously. It's easier said than done. I'm sure all of you must agree, because as the life goes on, you think that we would have learned better and we will be able to handle situations nicely. But I have seen it doesn't happen like that. When the problem comes, when the trouble comes, how you feel is as you were again in the first grade of the school, that kind of feeling you have. But you still pray to Krishna that, Krishna, you have helped us to come into this line of devotional service. So hopefully you will empower us that we can come closer to you slowly in this lifetime or whenever you desire. Hare Krishna.
Excellent. Yeah, the amazing thing is Maharaj Citraketu, he's the king of Vidya planet, for all these great people there, but there was no arrogance or pride in him, and he was still very humble and accepting everything, and he thought himself lower than Shiva Parvati, which shows that he didn't mean to insult Lord Shiva, because he felt lower than them anyway. Mother and is a senior as Shiva, so he did not have any kind of pride in him. So nice. Okay, let's do couple of rounds, Swashi Mataji and Prabhi Mataji. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami